Last year, I reviewed Damien Echols' High Magic book, and I thought it was pretty good. I thought it was generally pretty good for beginners, and I didn't really have anything bad to say about it. It was just very simple, very easy. However, today we are not reviewing High Magic again, we are reviewing Angels and Archangels, which is a spirit catalog. And I've got some things to say about it. So, I am Dave, the amateur magus. On this channel I talk all about the mechanics behind ceremonial magic, occultism, esotericism, and the mechanics behind everything you can find within a dusty old grimoire. If you like what I do here and want to support the channel, please go down to the Patreon link in the description below. You can get exclusive access to YouTube videos early, Patreon exclusive videos, and the Occultic Manual series, which is a monthly write-up that is more approachable than a grimoire and more advanced than what I have here on the YouTube channel. If any of that sounds interesting to you, subscribe over on Patreon or just share this video out with people you think might enjoy it. And if you're already watching this on Patreon, you have my thanks for your continued and ongoing support. Angels and Archangels is classified as a spirit catalog by me and a couple other people. A spirit catalog is a type of book for occultists that is effectively a phone book, for those of you who still remember what the fuck those are. It is a book where you have a listing of spirits, you have a listing of how to call the spirits, and you have a listing of why to call the spirits. This one reason alone is why the Goetia is so popular. It tells you both how to call the spirits and why to call the spirits. That being said, Angels and Archangels is in the similar vein. It teaches you how to call up angels, and it teaches you why to call up angels. Now, when I do book reviews, I don't usually like to go into the specifics of the practices or any of that. I have one major problem with this that does relate to the practice, but if you watched my High Magic review, you will know why this comes up, so we'll get there when we get there. So, starting off, do I hate this book? Not entirely. I don't hate this book. I think this book, if High Magic was a solid A, I'm gonna give Angels and Archangels a solid C. Is it bad? Oh god, no. Is it good? In places, yes. Is it, like, perfect? No, because of the gripe I have. So, starting off, he goes into the will, the ego, and he explains crossing the abyss, which his opinion of crossing the abyss and my opinion of crossing the abyss are very different. And then he goes into the angels of the elements, and these are the angels of the elements according to him. Now, I want to just stress that he has started this with 6 angels, and they're the 4 angels of the quarters that you are familiar with the lesser banishing ritual of the pentagram, which it is my understanding that that is a large portion of his practice, which there's no problem there. So that is going to be Raphael for air, Gabriel for water, Michael for fire, and Uriel or Ariel for earth. No problem so far, but then I said there's 2 others. And those are going to be Metatron and Sandalphon. Now, I don't hate this. I don't hate this at all, actually. I'm just going to straight up say that I've used this 6-angel configuration in some of my rituals. Now, he doesn't actually give an element for Sandalphon and Metatron here, explicitly saying that Metatron is associated with no element and no direction since he exists within the mind of divinity, which I find very funny. However, he positions him above, and he positions Sandalphon below, which, if you know that Sandalphon is the archangel of the sphere of Malkuth, which is the sphere of the physical earth, that makes a lot of sense. Now, I find this to be not actually that big of a deal. Basically, what he's just doing here is expanding on the lesser banishing ritual of the pentagram, which, more power to him. If that's a major part of your practice, go for it. However, the fact that he lists these with elements is kind of funny, and the fact that he's effectively doing this as expanding the LBRP is really ironic. Because for those of you who know about the Golden Dawn history and the Golden Dawn tradition, Damien Echols' practice is very much like a more energy magic, like energy work focused Brazilian jiu-jitsu, no extra movement style Golden Dawn offshoot is how I like to view it. It's really funny that he puts Metatron and Sandalphon in the elements, like, to expand the LBRP, because if you know the Golden Dawn, there's two more elements they have, pseudo elements. There's Spirit Active and Spirit Passive, and he kind of de facto uses those as what Metatron and Sandalphon are in the latter half of part 1. And here I'm just going to get my biggest criticism out of the way of this entire book. And that is going to be the sigils that he is using. So here's an example. Source in the description. So this is the sigil for the Archangel Michael. Now this is going to be very different if you are familiar with the Hermetic Order of the Golden Dawn's Rose Cross, which is what this is, but it is an English version. Now, I was taught, the way I learned how to do magic with Hebrew angels is you have to use the Hebrew Rose Cross with the Hebrew angels, because the spelling is different, and that causes a bunch of little inconsistencies with how these spirits function. Now, this is not going to be in any of these, to my understanding. These are all going to be based on the English name of the angel. So, Sandalphon, Metatron, they're all going to be Anglicized. Every single one of these is going to be Anglicized. Which is not a big deal for some people, but I personally have a big fucking problem with it, and that is the only reason I don't like this book as much as I wanted to. That being said, for reasons we will get into, it is still worth picking up for a couple reasons. So we'll get there. Part 2 is all about the angels of the Tree of Life. This is going to be the Tree of Life, the Hermetic Tree of Life. This is going to go from Malkuth to Yesod to Hod to Netzach to Tiphareth to Gevurah to Hesed, Bina, Chokmah, and then Kether. In case you are wondering, he uses Zadkiel for Hesed, he uses Zavkiel for Bina, and he uses Kamael for Gevurah. All of these are fairly standard. Now, here is where we get to the reason I say this book is worth picking up, even though you might not agree with me. And here is where it gets a little bit interesting. So, part 3 is all about the angels and archangels of the Zodiac. Now, I have a love for zodiacal magic. Zodiacal magic is something that I have been looking into for years, and I've been also working on a decanate magic system to go along with it that I'm slowly but surely working on and have been for many years. But this is one of the few books that actually talks in any great detail about the angels, specifically the archangels, of the 12 zodiac signs, at least according to Agrippa. Damien Echols is one of the few people who actually, teaches you why you would call these spirits up. Agrippa just kind of says they rule the zodiac, and Damien actually provides substantially decent reasons for why you would call these up, to the point where I think it is worth the picking up the book alone for these. Genuinely, this is such a very niche topic that I personally, when I read it for the first time, was like, holy shit, finally, somebody wrote it down. Now, here's where we get to a negative I don't like. He then goes into the 72 angels of the Zodiac, and you might recall that 72 is important because it's the number of the Shem HaMephorash. He goes from really, S-tier material to the angels of the Shem HaMephorash are lesser versions of the zodiacal archangels, which they're not. They're not just lesser versions of the zodiacal archangels, but in this system, that is what he is saying, and he does give different reasons for calling them up, and I do like these reasons, actually. Calling up the angels of the Shem HaMephorash for the reasons he gives is actually quite interesting. And it's not actually like one-to-one what you would usually see in like other books. Like if you look at the Gallery of Magic, they're not going to be listing these. If you look in Franz Barden, they're not going to be listing these. They're actually quite different reasons, and they kind of do expand the scope of what the Angels of the Shemhan Farash can do. However, my second major problem with this is his view on angels as effectively elementals that are only as intelligent as they need to be in order to do the will of God. I don't like looking at angels that way, but that is how he kind of phrases them, and this is how he kind of frames them as being like barely intelligent spirits. I don't like that. And then we get to part 4. Part 4 is the Angels of the Major and Minor Arcana. This is kind of using the tarot cards to call up different aspects of the different angels and archangels. I quite like this a lot. I like this idea. I haven't used this particular version of evoking the archangels and the angels, but this seems very strong, and this seems like it would work fairly well for a lot of people. If you know that the 72 angels of the Shemhan Farash correspond to the minor arcana, and I know that some people like to flip them over for a more specific correspondence, that this is similar to that in a weird way. The rest of the book is dedicated to practices and different things you can do with these particular spirits, including various different rituals, including the LBRP, the analysis of the keyword, adding in the Archangels of the Tree of Life into what is effectively a very strange version of the Middle Pillar. Effectively, the rest of the book is for, one, how to kind of engage with these spirits and these energies in a way that won't just completely fucking fry your energetic body, which we love to see that. Initiation should be done at a reasonable pace. And two, how to employ these spirits and how to work with these particular entities in an orderly fashion. So yes, the first half of the book is a full spirit catalog, and the second half of the book is all practices and rituals for how to use those spirits and how to get accustomed to them and the various energies that they will bring into your life. What do I think of the book? I think that this is, oh god, this is a very strong, like, I think it's a C. I think I was too harsh on it originally. Rereading it for this review, I originally thought it was a C. And that's what I have in my notes here. I don't think this is a C. I think this is a high B. The parts that are high, the really good parts are really, really good. The low parts are really annoying. So it's not something that I personally could just grab off my shelf and consult. This is the kind of thing I would add to a list of other spirits, and like this is the kind of thing I would addendum onto a pre-existing list of spirits that I have in like my own personal spirit grimoire. Not, oh, I can just grab this book off the shelf and try these particular spirits. I could do that, but I don't know. Some of the, I will say, the art and the sigils are actually really well made, despite them being, like, wrong. He does, in later sections, say that this is the true sigil, which, if you are familiar with the history of Golden Dawn, is it did make me chuckle when I reread that. But, for the most part, I would say, if you are looking for beginner-focused evocation, and you want it done in like a safe way, and you want results, and you already have like a pre-established meditation, maybe you're doing the LBRP, maybe you're doing the LBRH, I would do that kind of thing. I will say that this gets a B plus. B plus. So yeah, arbitrary grade is a B plus. That being said, if you are looking for more methods or more resources on evocation, there's definitely way worse out there. I'll get to it eventually. But for the most part, B plus, solid. Still a strong recommend, just not as strong of a recommend as High Magic was for beginners, because for what that was, I think that was better for what that was, compared to what this is. Just matching up my practice versus this book, it doesn't really. It's something I would add as an addendum. It's not a full thing I can just pick up off the shelf. I could try, and that might help, but it's not something I'm willing to work out of just verbatim, just due to my practice. But your results may vary, and if they do, please let me know in the comment section below. I have been Dave, the Amateur Magus. Hopefully everyone enjoyed the content today. If you enjoyed this book, check in the description below. You can pick it up on Amazon. And if you use my link, it supports the channel a little bit. Only do that if this review has made you want to pick up the book. That being said, I have been Dave, the Amateur Magus. Hope everyone is having a good day. If you're not having a good day, hope your day gets better. Take it easy. Take care. See you soon.